Good evening. It is Friday, September the 18th, 2020, and this is the City of South Haven. This is our final special meeting for our first round interviews of our city manager candidates. I would like to begin by calling the meeting to order. We will have public comment here in a moment. If you would like to call in to make any comments prior to this meeting starting, that number is 637-0777. Again, 637-0777. Before we do that, I just want to give a couple shout outs to some folks that make all this possible, as well as to our board here. First, Mr. Phil Poole and Jared Knapp, who hide behind the doors from our IT department back there, who make this meeting possible. They do a lot all the time. They always make us look good on city council night. They keep the lights on, the cameras rolling. One night this week, I hear they actually had 3 different virtual meetings at once, which doesn't surprise me they can do that because they can do a lot of amazing things. So I just say thank you. I'm knocking on your door from over here, guys, so thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Travis Sullivan, as always, our city clerk. He's always prepared. Agendas, meeting notices, minutes for being here every night. Thank you. Tammy Hill, city's customer service team, for doing a daily cleaning of the council chambers so it's sanitized. Miss Kim Wise, thank you very much. Our HR director for, again, being here every night after a full day of work. All the organizational stuff to make this happen, scoring everything, and really just getting us through the process. So thanks to all that. And then our interview panel. Again, Ross, Stephanie, Bob, and then I know Claudia is not here, but she might sneak in a minute here. So appreciate all of your time, dedication, and getting us through this process. So I do appreciate all of you. So on that note, let's see if we have any public comments. We have no public comments. Let's do a roll call.
Claudia Maddox. Ross Stein.
Here.
Bob Straits.
Here.
Stephanie Timmer.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here. All right, Kim's going to bring in our next candidate, our final candidate. It is Miss Kate Hosier. And to many of you, you will recognize Miss Kate Hosier as our interim city manager, so familiar to all of us. Good evening, Kate.
Good evening, sir.
And you can feel free to lose the mask if you desire. So.
Okay. They do make it a little hot.
They do, and hard to understand. So welcome. Thank you for being here. I don't need to tell you who I am. So I just to let you know, so this is the first round of interviews, and we have an hour allocated, about 15 questions. And at the conclusion, tonight's the conclusion night, the goal is we're going to take a break, and we will be recommending finalists to the city council at the end of tonight. So that's where we're at in the process. So if you're ready, I get to fire the first question at you. Oh, actually, no, the panel. Let's walk around and explain who the panel is. I know you know a lot of us, but let's do it.
Hi, Kate. Hi, Stephanie.
Evening, Kate.
Hi, Ross.
How you doing, Kate?
Very good. Thank you, Bob. How are you?
Excellent. Okay. All right. We're good. See, this was a. Yeah. Okay. Good. So take a moment, if you can, and just share with us your professional career experience. Walk us through your resume and how it connects to the current job, the city manager position. Please.
Sure. I brought my resume here just to kind of refresh myself, just in case. As for work experience, professionally, I've worked a number of jobs here at the city. Most recently as the assistant city manager, covering economic development, brownfields, the planning and zoning department, and of course the management of the harbor and our 4 municipal marinas. Prior to that, I did have the opportunity to work as the deputy city clerk, running the elections with the city clerk, which kind of dovetailed some of the work I did in Lansing. I worked a couple elections up there, and trust me, they have a lot more precincts going on than we do here, so that was good experience. Additionally, I've worked at the marinas a number of years under HEPA, the marina office manager. And prior to going to law school, I've been a 911 emergency dispatcher for the police department and fire department. And I've been a dock hand, beach patrol, and I think that covers it. So I've worked in a number of departments here at the city that have really helped me formulate how they all work independently. And so professional experience as well. I'm an attorney. I'm registered with the State Bar, And I had a private practice for a number of years in Lansing doing criminal defense litigation. And primarily my practice was 99% indigent defense. So I was assigned folks who who rated on the poverty scale and needed assistance with legal representation for both misdemeanors and felony representation. So that's kind of that in a nutshell.
Very good. Perfect, thank you. I will pass to Ross.
Why do you want to be our city manager? And what do you hope to accomplish during your tenure as the city manager?
Okay. I'd like to become the city manager. I've been doing it for a couple months now, but more importantly, I'm am very happy to have returned back to South Haven. I grew up here, went to school here, went away to work and get another degree, and I stayed away. But then it came to a point where I was ready to return to my roots, see where I can serve. My roots do run deep in this area. My family is very dedicated to service with the fire department and other areas. And I think that there's nothing better than serving your community, and I think that I've been preparing for this job for a long time, and that I have the ability to do the job well, and that, I think there's nothing better than giving back to your community. And what I'd like to accomplish is, well, we have a number of challenges in front of us. We need to get a year-round economy, and we need to deal with our housing crisis, which is we have a dearth of workforce housing. Many of the people who work here cannot live here within the city. So, and this COVID-19 pandemic has really kind of shown a light on how connectivity works. And I think we need to also look at our connectivity, not just in the city, but maybe in our surrounding communities, or, where we have a lot of people who live and work, but need to also get connected to the internet for school and for work.
A great leader is someone who inspires greatness in others. Tell us about your experiences with staff and leadership development.
Sure. I think also a great leader has to emulate the values and the work ethic that they're looking from their staff and their team members. I also think a good leader is a good team member, a team builder. I think here we have a very good team of professionals with the fire side, with our public works department, here within City Hall. And to build upon that, I think is the mark of a good leader. To emulate, have people follow you, you have to walk the walk. You have to be the person. You have to come in, get the job done, and stay as late as it takes to get that done. And you also have to empower your staff to learn the education, to get education, to encourage them to make those hard decisions. Being a leader does mean you have to make hard decisions, and that could be as making it controversial, but knowing that you have to make those decisions. And I've made those. I've had to close the beach a time or two on a red flag day, and those are not popular, but you have to make those decisions, and you have to empower and back up your team and to give them the resources to be successful and get the job done.
Thanks.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Claudia.
Sorry I'm late.
No worries.
Give us a few brief examples of skills that you used in the past that helped you as a leader. And then what skill sets do you feel are most important for you as a city manager?
Skills that I've used in the past are, well, team building, using your team to help you make the right decision. There's nothing worse than not getting information coming up from the lower levels or entry level, or people who are actually on the ground to tell you what's really going on. There's a lot of times that I can't leave the office to go figure something out, so I have to rely on who's there to tell me what's going on. But then there's a lot of times when I'll actually go out there. The Northside Marina, we had to go and make the determination that the power wasn't sufficient to turn on. Walking those docks and seeing what was down there with the professionals really helps out. Additionally, take on those red flag days to go down there and actually see what the conditions are. see what the officers are facing when they're working on folks bringing, a drowned person coming out of the water, someone working on them, and then a lot of the public not realizing what's going on. And just in seeing that kind of a circumstance, you get a better feel what's going on. And I guess from my perspective, a good leader has to look around and see what's going on, having their team tell them, this is what we need, boss, and listening to them. Listening is a big part of it. Having the patience and the perseverance and the courage to make decisions that are not going to be very popular but have to be made. I also think that's a skill set. Patience, perseverance, and courage are what's needed in a good leader to effectuate decisions that are hard, that may not be popular, but are good in the long run. It also takes a person to explain why they did what they did. It's not always easy to say, this is what I was thinking, this is what I saw at the time, and just know that, if I knew something different, I would have made a different decision, but explaining yourself as well later on down the road. You can't go wrong.
Thank you.
Kate, this is a question that tries to get at your experience, your specific experience. Tell us about your experience working with diverse community members. Please explain the positive and negative impacts that went along with that experience.
Okay. Well, as an attorney working in Lansing, I had a wide variety of folks that would come to be on my docket and people I would represent. Many people, definitely were on the poverty scale. That's how they became my clients. But more importantly, some people had abilities that disabilities, they couldn't communicate well, or they had different difficulty in comprehension. There were some people that just didn't speak English. They were newly immigrated here and had fallen into some trouble. So sometimes language was a barrier, and you'd have to find an interpreter to come and help you mediate and help so you can communicate with your client. But you also have to learn that there's sometimes cultural norms that you didn't know was there. And learning to bridge those cultural norms that maybe you don't understand and maybe they don't understand what's supposed to go on, a lot of it comes down to communication and respect. You have to really break things down to a level that you are communicating to them and they are able to communicate to you, and there's a respect going back and forth that I may not understand everything, but let's see what we can figure out together.
Thank you.
And I guess if you want to know specific examples, I did have a couple clients who I think they were a minority of Ethiopian descent or out of Somalia, and we had a hard time trying to find a translator. So, and it was pretty important because this could have ramifications for their immigration status. But we luckily did locate a translator, and I was able to work with the prosecutor's office at that time to find a resolution where it did not impact their immigration status. So I consider that a big win. Thank you.
All right, Kate, the next one's mine. Can you share with us how you've worked to create an environment that's welcoming and inclusive, both the staff, customers, taxpayers, you name it?
Sure. I think it's twofold, really. It's my predecessor, Brian Doucette, had a very good policy. It was a very open-door policy that anyone can come in, get him on the phone, go out and meet with, and I think that's an excellent policy. We are a small community, but we also have a diverse community. If they can't come down to City Hall, I'll be more than happy to, and have met several people out on site. That's A1. First off, you can always do that. And then secondly, and I think this kind of comes back to emulating the leadership qualities that you want your people to see, which is we are in the business of customer service. First and foremost, that's what we do. If it's internal or external customers, we have to help out. If it's another department, calling another department, hey, I need to get this, okay, let me go find that. Or if it's a person calling about their tax bill, okay, let me see if I can get those answers. First and foremost, customer service. So inclusivity, we may not always understand where the person is coming from, but the first thing we can always do is be respectful and try to communicate and figure out what is the disconnect.
Well stated. Thank you.
Very Describe a time when you needed to work cooperatively with somebody that did not share the same ideas or priorities as you. How did you resolve the differences?
I'm going to take this one back to, again, to the legal profession. As I mentioned, I was an indigent defense attorney, so I had a contract with one of the judges at district court, and I had upwards between 300 and 400 clients a year. And it was a set fee per month that you were assigned regardless of the number of clients you had and the number of times you went to court. So that was not exactly a very lucrative contract. And one thing that you always needed to do, nearly any case, was a police report. You needed to know what was the charges, and you also needed to know what was the same thing the prosecutor was looking at. Under the court rules, you did not get the police report like the prosecutor did, like you would in a felony court, whereas discovery is free and you get it no matter what. In misdemeanor court, you had to pay for your police report. Well, to pay the police report fees to get the actual document were pretty substantial. So you could almost see half of your fee that the court gave you going right out the door to the police department. So that was a pretty big problem. So I talked with a couple of the other defense lawyers, because each judge had their own counsel. And I said, this just is, are you seeing the same thing? Yes, we're seeing it. And so talking with the prosecutor wasn't getting anywhere, because now where I sit now in city government, I understand it a lot more, but at the time we weren't seeing eye to eye. We needed the police report. They agreed, but they couldn't give me the funding to get that done. So we brought in the courts, the judges, and we brought in a couple of the clerks to kind of see what we could do. And ultimately, after hashing that session out, what we did determine is that the prosecutor could just email us the redacted version that they already had. And if we had to come up there and get a videotape, we could do that. But really, if they could just email us what they already had, there was no additional costs. It's just one person maybe sending off an email. It was to 6 people for each, each court had its own person. But what we did is we resolved that, and then also kind of kept the integrity. Because as a defense attorney, you have an obligation and a duty to defend someone. Well, if you can't do that without the police report, you're not doing your job. So there's ethical considerations, and we were able to resolve that without no one losing face, but also no one giving up too much to get there. We just needed a creative workaround, but it did take us a while to get everyone in the room. So I think that went well.
Give us an example of a time you had to use critical thinking skills to either foresee a potential problem or to quickly solve a problem.
For that one, I guess I'd look at the Northside Marina. So I worked in the marina in 2013 when we hit low water. In fact, I think there was low water records established for Lake Michigan in 2013. And since then, from 2013 on up, we've obviously increased the water levels. In 2019, we were already kind of looking at high water levels, and we knew that there could be a problem, but we didn't really think how bad it would be until about, November, when we had that really bad storm during Thanksgiving or the night before Thanksgiving. I remember being out there and just watching the water levels come up. I think Black River Street over by All Seasons had flooded. So there was just a lot of water everywhere, and it was a lot of moving water. So I thought at the time, we better start looking at the infrastructure. At least the south side had just been replaced, so we thought that one was pretty good. We'd put mining cable in there, so we were pretty happy with that. But the north side really hadn't been touched in some time. So myself and the marina manager worked with, I can't remember the company, but we had an electric engineer and an electrician come out and do some testing on there, and that's when we found out that the shore power system was compromised. And I think we learned that in late January, early February, but it took us almost a month and a half to get somebody out there from November. So knowing that we could have a potential problem and wanted to have some experts come out there and actually tell us, this is what you're looking at, then we were able to make the very hard but necessary decision to decide to shutter that facility for the year because it just wasn't safe. I couldn't imagine having motors tied up, trying to plug into the electricity because, you can't be out there for every single hookup, and you could have somebody come in the middle of the night, oh, I forgot to turn on my power, and try to turn it on or whatever. I mean, you could turn it off, but it just seemed like the safest thing to do is just to say, this is not safe. We shouldn't even turn it on. We shouldn't even have anyone in here because those docks get slick. We all know that. The other thing to do is that even though we did that, we didn't want to sit back on our heels and just leave that for the year. So we worked with Edgewater to hurry up and put together an emergency application to the DNR and see if we could get funding for the fixing. And luckily, we were able to do it, to get that money. And so now we're looking at the fixes now, and they're making good progress. So we're only out about a year's worth of revenue, and plus we'll get a much safer system out of it. But that was the ability to see from a very bad storm on a November night what could be, and what would be if we didn't do anything about it.
This is sort of related to number 8. Give us an example of a situation you were in when you had to adapt quickly to change. How do you handle it?
I could do this there's a lot of just different situations where you have to kind of pivot. And I guess this one I'll look back to, I'm not sure if any of you know, but I'm with Our Town Players Community Group. And so we do a children's show pretty much every February, but it takes about 4 months of prep work with up to 70 kids, so it could be a lot. This last year we had a fantastic show, but we were plagued with illness. And we just had a lot of people just come down and just be out for whole weeks at a time. And you do try to, make sure people, learn other spots, but that's not always the case. But this year, right as we're coming into our last, our dress rehearsals, and we're about to get to opening night, a couple roles didn't show up, like pivotal roles. We were doing Alice in Wonderland, so when a couple talking flowers don't show up, it's a little hard to make sure that we're getting through the act if people aren't showing up. But we were happy to have a couple people who had been watching, and so we just modified some costumes and did some makeup real quick and slid them in, and they actually performed quite well. But for a minute there, you're trying to move people who already, this is where you're staying, and this is what I know, and trying to you can do this. You've got it. You're going to look fantastic in that Rose outfit, and then getting them in there and again motivating and then guiding them into that spot. And I know it seems kind of, maybe that's not the best example, but, a cast of 70 plus all the people in behind there, there's a lot that goes on, and you have to pivot and you have to adjust really quickly on the spot.
Thank you.
Kate, dealing with boards or committees can be rewarding, but it also can be frustrating. Provide an example of a rewarding situation and a frustrating situation you experienced working with a board or a committee.
Okay. I've worked with lots of different boards, most recently the City Council, Planning Commission, Harbor Commission, Local Development Finance Authority, Brownfield Authority. And the biggest thing I've learned with all boards and commissions is that as the staff liaison, you have to do your job to educate them as to what's going on. Especially for the elected officials, they need to know what is the research, they want to know what the law is, what are they being asked to do. And I would say the most rewarding thing that I can think of is that I've done my job to make sure that they can do their job. Giving them the information, giving them the background, research, giving them anything they need to know. If that's something that their constituents are asking them about, giving them what they need to help make them their decision is the biggest thing I can do. And as for the most frustrating, My frustration with any board that if something goes wrong is usually just directed at myself, because again, I must not have done something. I may not have given them enough information. If there's still questions that they needed answered that I didn't have, that's on me. There's only one person I can give them that information, but if I don't get them what they need, or if I didn't know about it, the biggest thing is that's my job as the staff liaison, as the person who puts the agendas together, as the person who reaches out and hears the community. It's my job to get that forward. So my frustration is mostly, did I not anticipate that, or did I not give them enough? We pride ourselves in putting together a pretty transparent packet for nearly all of our boards and commissions, especially city council. So if I'm not putting something in there, if I'm leaving something out, that's my biggest frustration. I'm like, oh, I should have thought about that, or I forgot that part.
Thank you.
All right, my question. If you're awarded this position, what sort of challenges do you think you might encounter? And of equal importance, how might you address those challenges? Could be one or two.
I see that we're still dealing with high water. Now, there's some that we believe that we're peaking, but how fast it's going to go down, I don't know, and I don't think many people do know, so we'll still have to address those high water challenges that we first saw in February. I also think that we're also dealing with the pandemic, so the pandemic is something we're all kind of rolling with month by month, in times week by week, but it seems to have slowed down from March, April, when things seem to change quite rapidly. We're dealing with a social movement that's taking our nation by storm. I don't know what it all means, but I do know that there's people who don't feel that their voices are being heard, and we need to address that. I've worked as an advocate for other people whose voices didn't feel like they were heard. They didn't feel like the system was fair. So I think that I have the skills, and I've been trained to work in that, to help them feel like their voices are being heard. And then fourth, I think that we have to work on our year-round economy, and primarily we have to work on our housing. We have the Overton project that's currently in the works. We're in the evaluation period, but we still have a housing challenge that has to be addressed if we're really trying to get a year-round economy and workforce housing for people who live here. So those are my four main.
I agree with all of them. I will defer to Ross.
Tell us about your experience dealing with intergovernmental workings such as authorities.
I'm quite familiar with them. We have quite a few that are going on between South Haven Charter Township, the city of South Haven, and Casco. We have Shays, which is our ambulance and emergency response, which my dad was part of for many years. Shasa, our new water and sewer authority. Shara, our rec authority that we've partnered up and have Pilgrim Haven together, along with the Land Conservancy. We also have the Joint Building Authority, so we've been talking with developers, or interviewing developers this week for the $2 million renovation of the library. I think it's one of the tenements of our area that we work so well together between the Charter Township, the city, and Casco. And we use those authorities to leverage the different assets and resources of each community to benefit everyone here. And just recently, we'll be working together for the coastal resiliency planning that we should be hopefully kicking off here soon. So again, I'm pretty familiar with it. I like to think that between all the different intergovernmentals, we strengthen our area together with them.
You've talked a little bit about your involvement with our town players. How else are you involved?
Currently, I'm the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I actually, it's for the arts and culture seat, so me being a part of, so the president of our town players is the reason why I sit on that particular board. I've been asked to work on other committees and other organizations, and I do have a desire, but I also know that I don't want to be spread too thin and not give enough to any one organization. I don't like to just be a part of it, just to be in the name of it. Actually like to work on things. And for our town players, I put the agendas and the minutes together, and we have our meetings when we did meet. But then when we do our children's play, it's 4 months. Then I'm at the school pretty much every other night. So that's a big time commitment. And then for the chamber, we meet monthly, and then we do other strategic things. Again, advancing that business community. I'd like to stay with those organizations, but if I don't have the time, I don't want to add to more. I know that I've been asked by a couple people maybe who meet at 7 a.m. to come over there, but I don't want to make sure, I don't want to overcommit and not be able to do anything.
Thank you.
Why are you looking at me?
So,
Budget. How would you approach and prepare and present a budget?
first thing I do is we ask the department heads to have a look at the budgets from last year and forecast for the next upcoming year. They're the ones who know their departments better than I do. If there's particular projects that are coming up or things that have been holding out there, they're the ones to know. They're also the ones that know if their equipment needs to be upgraded. So that's the first thing I would do. Additionally, I like to check in with finance and see what are the expected revenues coming in. Are we looking to stay the same, go up, or go down? With this year in particular, the anticipation is that the revenues will go down. So we've already been hearing that from the state, so we're trying to, again, adjust on that. But this year, when we put together our budget, knowing that we had those erosion and high water costs, we tailored the budget to be very lean and really cut that down. We do know that we have about a $500,000 shortfall right now that we're trying to address. And we looked at a couple different departments to see if there's any way to streamline those, or if there's things we can cut, or things we can find different capacity within people already working in the city. But again, so for the budget process, I like to start with those. And then as we move further into the budget process and you sit down with finance and you really kind of narrow those in, we typically do a couple budget workshops with the council to kind of let them know what's looking at with your general fund, what's looking like with your enterprise funds, if there's any big one-time expenditures, if there's not, if there's just a lack of revenue or more revenue. And then we tailor the budget to also coincide with the CIP. We do a 7-year capital improvements plan that's updated every year. So the budget should mirror the plan of the capital improvement plan. So if you have streets in there for $500,000, that should be represented in your budget for $500,000, so there's a continuity. And then finance also likes to project at least 1 year out. It may not always make it in the budget documents, but at least you get to see if there's within 2 years, if you've got a major expenditure in one fund, but then you don't have that in the next following year, you get to project a little bit better. And then we take that, of course, to council for two meetings for introduction and adoption.
Thank you.
Final question. But I want to compliment you on the side publicly. In the best of times, it's difficult to be a city manager. You took over as an interim city manager, and it wasn't the best of times, and you've done a really great job. I just want you to know that from somebody from the general public.
Well, thank you.
So the final question, you can't get it wrong. Is there anything that you would like to share that you believe would aid us in making our decision?
Sure. Yes, and thank you very much. It's been a challenging year. I think I've heard a couple adages for 2020 that it's been one for the books. I'm sure they say a bit more colorfully than I am here, but I guess for me, I just would like you to know that I very much want this job, that I've been training for this job, not just for the last 5 years, but I think for my entire life. For a person who's had the number of jobs I've had with the city, and then, of course, my legal background and being an advocate for people who maybe don't have a voice, I think this is a good job that just meets my professional experience and my qualifications in the background. I'm very pleased to have come back to South Haven from the Lansing area, that I stayed up there to go to school and then, of course, had to practice. So I'm very pleased to come back here and to continue serving this community. It's got a lot going for it. We all have our challenges, but it's nice to go around and see people you know and bump into somebody at the grocery store and have a quick chat. So I like it. It's a great town, great place to live and grow up. And I'm really happy to be back here, and I think that not only can I do the job, I will do the job. And I think this summer has been a really good crash course in showing what I can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It has been a crash course, quite a summer. I'll just ditto all that was said. So
But
that wraps up our question. So thank you for working all day and coming back tonight and talking to us. So
right.
on that note, I will say we will adjourn. We will come back after probably 5-10 minutes or so.
Yes.
And we will have our kind of final deliberation, see where the scores come in, and make our recommendation. So let's take a recess.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. back. So we have finished our interviews of our candidates. And at this time, I think I will pass to Kim, if you're willing to just share with us the top three. As far as scores, we don't really need to say the scores. Let's just maybe just list our top three candidates and
Sure. After taking all of the panel's scores and tabulating them, the top three candidates with the highest scores were Tim Wolf, Tyler Dotson, and Kate Hosier.
Okay, very good. So I think really the question for this panel will be really just a recommendation. We have three candidates. Is it two or three? And obviously, if we want to make any comments, thoughts, I will just again say one, thank you to the board for your time. Thank you to the candidates for coming, taking your time and being here. We had all excellent candidates. I mean, I feel like we really had a very good pool of candidates. So again, thank you, Kim, for helping vet and get the word out there, and that's fantastic. So with that, any board comments, thoughts?
I would echo your comment regarding the candidates themselves. I felt that the three at the top had the experience and the education and demonstrated most of the skills that we were seeking. I felt that the other candidates, for the most part, were strong contenders for other positions or future positions. They needed more seasoning, more experience. But I think the top three, at least, fall in the category of having experience and having the education that we were seeking. I would say the top two met our preferential guidelines from the job description. In the job description, we were looking for at least 5 years' experience, plus the leadership skills and so forth. And I thought the top two stood out from the third one, and the third one stood out from the rest of the field. So that's my thoughts.
I would agree. Very, very well stated. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts?
The second and third ones have different personality traits and presented differently, so I don't know if that's something that should be considered is, do you want this style or that style? So I don't know if that's something the rest of the committee observed or not.
I observed it as well, and I think that was probably some of my hesitation of saying, just pass on three. I thought that, and I don't know if should we name names, because I think that's part of this when we start the second and third.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine. We
Kate
can-
was number one in
Yep.
the tally, and Tim was number two, and Tyler is number three.
Yep.
And Tyler, to me, demonstrated a lot of passion, but almost too much drama, almost too emotional. And maybe a little nervousness. And he also didn't have quite the experience, and that may have been part of it as well. But I felt that there was calm demeanor with Kate and Tim. There was a certain commanding presence that they presented, and I would feel very comfortable with either one of them. I wasn't as comfortable with Tyler in his presentation.
Well stated. Thank you.
My thoughts are that the top three scores are so close. I feel that all three of them should be presented.
Very good. I will wait for Miss Claudia.
Oh, I don't know what the other scores were, but three. Those names they are at the top of my list, so I have no problem with presenting three to the council. Or we can go two. I'll be
Okay.
comfortable with two.
Oh. I'm very flexible.
I agree with Bob's observations. I thought that Tyler did a good job, but I don't know if he was nervous. I don't know if he was trying to show too much compassion or desire for it. He certainly showed a desire of wanting it, but as he said, the top two met everything that we were asking for. So I guess at this point, I don't, being the outsider as far as the community, I don't know what your feeling is the city council wants to have sent to them. Either way, from the interviews that we saw this week, I would be comfortable with Tim or Kate at the helm.
I think that's fair. So we're pretty even. I guess at this point in time, I get to be the tie vote here. I could just split this one up. I think just based on our.
I'm like quarter out of my pocket.
Nope, you're good. Again, they're all good, so I guess I feel at this time, I think we look for if we just looked at the experience alone, I feel that, for me, would be kind of the deciding vote. So I'm very comfortable sending 2, so I think 2 is fair at this juncture. In the end, we got one position we're going to fill, so I think let's send 2. I want a motion to do that. Do we need a?
I so move.
I'll support.
So we have a motion and a second to send the top 2 candidates. Just want to, I guess, we really probably don't need a roll call. Well, we just,
You want to state the names of the candidates in the motion, just so that we.
yep. So the top 2 candidates would be Kate Hosier and Tim Wolf. Okay. So just all in favor of sending those 2 candidates along to city council for the next round of interviews? Just say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So we are sending those 2 along. And with that, again, thank you, panel. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Phil and Jared. You can go home now. So, and that will adjourn this meeting. So we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.